This video was brought to you in part by the supporters of the AMTV Patreon. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Ident Review Extra, the spin-off show that takes a look at one individual ident each episode and gives it the review it deserves. And this time around, we're embarking on a journey through the ITV Network and all the different regional stations that comprised it. We're jumping on over to Northern Ireland to take a look at ITV's main franchise holder there, Ulster Television. A few years after ITV was formed in 1955, viewers in Northern Ireland would finally be given a regional identity to call their own. Ulster Television launched on Halloween night 1959 and promised to provide viewers with the popular programmes aired across the ITV network, as well as a selection of unique Irish programming too. It was quick to adapt to colour when it became the standard across the UK, switching to colour broadcasting in 1970, and in 1988 became one of many channels that started to adapt to 24-hour broadcasting, becoming the last franchise of the ITV network to do so. The UTV name lasted all the way up until 2020, becoming one of few franchises to not adopt the general ITV brand. However, towards the end of that year, after an original temporary measure shifted continuity to the ITV name, this fixture became permanent for the region. But let's talk about UTV idents. Right from the get-go, they strived, as many franchises did, to create an image that would be striking and memorable for audiences, one in which it retained for decades. So let's take a look at some of these sequences and see how Ulster Television changed and moved with the times.
And I hope you enjoyed tonight's movie. Next from Ulster Television, our Friday matinee, where at 2:45, Tom Adams as Charlie Vine finds where the bullets fly. This spy spoof is at 2:45 on Friday.
Lots to unpack here. First off, the black and white ident lasted throughout the entirety of Ulster's life in monochrome, making its first appearance with the station's launch back in 1959 and being seen throughout the 1960s. The simplistic music contributes to a calming tone and feeling. Seeing the lines move to connect the dots feels very relaxing and satisfying to watch. The dots themselves supposedly represent the 7 major cities in Northern Ireland, all connected to help showcase Ulster programming. It's simple, for sure, as many idents from the black and white era are, but in that simplicity is a timeless charm, and for Ulster, I would argue it fits that sentiment. With the advent of colour, it seems the franchise adopted the blue and yellow duotones that several regions of the ITV network did too, such as Granada and ATV. It's likely because blue and yellow are two bright contrasting colours and work greatly to emphasise the benefits and differences of a colour TV service. It's a shame a lot of the animation and personality from the monochrome original is lost, mainly replaced with a static sequence, but the inclusion of the TV border would go on to symbolise UTV, not just for the Northern Irish viewers, but for anyone who came into contact with the channel. This zigzag connect the dots TV look continued into the 1980s, in which we had treated to some model work, a simple affair where the TV spins on a pole, covered in shiny material, to an early synthesizer fanfare before the station's name appears. The music aspect may be dated these days, being a very common fixture of many early 80s idents, but again, the retention of the TV logo, with the connecting dots, helped bring Ulster into the new age of how TV stations represented themselves. By the late 80s, computer-generated idents were becoming more commonplace, but Ulster seemed a little late to the party in using the technology for itself. This ident, first seen in 1987, uses a little bit of 3D imagery for the logo, and the darker colour tones lend for a more sophisticated look and feel, but it doesn't really compare to what the other ITV regions were doing around this time, or even competing channels from the BBC and Channel 4. However, just 1 year later, this seems to have been rectified. The zigzag TV logo has been kept, but now updated fully in 3D, incorporating CG effects to help it feel new, fresh and modern. It's not necessarily the nicest looking or most interesting ident from the network at this time, in my opinion, but in terms of bringing Ulster into the fold of using computer technology, it works well enough. I just think there's far too much grey dominating this ident's colour palette, which really dulls the strong blue and yellow of the TV logo quite substantially. The 90s efforts are a lot sleeker and in many ways return to the more simple idea of the black and white days. Gone is the excessive use of CG, and indeed the familiar zigzag telly look. Instead we have a more boxy approach, shortening the channel name to the simple UTV as it's commonly referred to today, and mixing some lovely purple and yellow colour tones. Sure, some incorporate some CG, that is in keeping with what was available in the 90s, but it seems UTV never sunk too much priority into its visual appearance compared to some of the other regions. As the 21st century loomed, it's clear that UTV adapted its look to remain similar to the general ITV brand that was coming in more forcefully, whilst also retaining its own unique identity for its Northern Irish viewer base. And even as the 2000s progressed, and UTV's idents were merely the ITV ones but retaining a different name, it's respectable that maintaining the familiar name and branding was kept in effect for several decades. So, whilst Ulster Television is often one of the forgotten regions from the heyday of the ITV network, it's just as valid as any of them. For Northern Irish viewers, this was their station, their escape on a day-to-day basis. The zigzag telly design is a stroke of genius, a simple and memorable image that audiences will always associate with the channel, a gradual change and evolution with the on-screen look to keep up with the times, even if they were a little late to the party on occasion. And even if their idents aren't often remembered by people, they still serve to provide quality programming to its region, keeping the name alive for over 60 years. So here's to UTV, the sole ITV provider for Northern Ireland. And so that brings us to the end of another episode of the Ident Review Extra. If you enjoyed this look back at Ulster, then please leave a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to the channel for lots more ident related content. I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Well, that does bring us to the end of another day here on AMTV. We do hope you enjoyed the programme, and a special thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and to everyone who's tuned in. Until the next broadcast, we wish you a good night.